Om Tare Tu Re Mangalam Shri Mahapani Swaha. Om Tare Tu Re Mangalam Shri Mahapani Swaha. Om Tare Tu Re Mangalam Shri Mahapani Swaha. Om Tare Tu Re Mangalam Shri Mahapani Swaha.
Hello everyone to the Lama Live livestream event of Lama Sutra Malione. A warm welcome to you connecting from different corners of the world, whether you are a long-time member of Tara Mandala or joining us for the very first time. I'm Dreamy, greeting you from Poland, and it's my great pleasure to be with you today. We are so incredibly fortunate to have a wonderful guest teacher with us today, Tenzin Bob Thurman. Professor Thurman is a world-renowned scholar, author, and a pioneer in bringing Tibetan Buddhism to the West. His vast knowledge, engaging teachings, and warm presence have inspired countless practitioners on their path. Bob is the first American to have been ordained as a Tibetan Buddhist monk and a personal friend of His Holiness the Dalai Lama for nearly 50 years. Bob is the founder and active president of Tibet House US, a nonprofit organization that aims to preserve and promote the unique cultural heritage of Tibet. He also co-founded the Manla Healing Center in the Catskill Mountains, where he serves as its spiritual director and teacher. Bob is a leading voice in the movement for social justice and human rights. He has been a vocal advocate for the Tibetan people and has worked tirelessly to raise awareness about their struggle for autonomy and freedom. So now I'm truly delighted to hand over to Bob Thurman, and please join me in giving him a very warm welcome. And may the teachings today enrich our lives and benefit all beings. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much, Jimmy, from Poland. What a pleasure. I'd rather listen to you than talk myself, really, I would. And what a pleasure, your kind introduction also. And so we're going to begin according to, you didn't also mention I'm a big fan of Sutra Malione and also of the wonderful Chandra, who was originally going to be in discussion with me on this event, but who is recuperating from something which he will do very well. And also, I'm a fan of Jimmy now that I've got to meet Jimmy online. And and I'm very, very honored to speak to all of you who are here on a Sunday morning because you are Dharma practitioners, which I think is a truly wonderful thing. So we will begin by meditating, and our meditation will be on our central topic for today, which is the famous statement by Nāgārjuna echoing the Prajñaparamita Sutras, Shūnyatā karuṇa garbham, which is Sanskrit for emptiness or voidness or openness or even freedom, you could say. Shūnyatā can mean the womb of compassion. So here, this is a very deep expression by Nāgārjuna in his Ratnavali, his jewel garland or jewel rosary, we can't really decide, in which he describes the highest teaching of the Buddha. Shūnyatā karuṇa garbham. Shūnyatā, openness or emptiness, karuṇa, compassion, garbha, womb. And you can read that compound in Sanskrit as emptiness, the womb of compassion. And as the womb of compassion, you could say. And if we can understand that phrase, by the end of this morning, I'll be very, very happy, very proud of you, and pleased with myself, actually, as well. Okay, so let's meditate on this. And but we'll meditate within the context of the sutra, because usually I like at the beginning of this kind of a session where we have a group meditation of one person kind of leading, guiding others through what they're saying. And if they're really thinking, speaking with understanding and with maybe not Buddha's omniscience, but with a kind of push towards that, then everyone has to meditate to listen. They have to concentrate on it, and they enter into a space. So in the Heart Sutra, it begins with the usual thing that sutras begin. It's thus did I hear on a certain occasion, which I think is the best try. Eka evam maya shrutam ekasmin samaye, the famous samaya word, which in this case means occasion. Occasion of meeting the transcendent and the relative meeting. The relative being the student who listens to the sutra, or the person in the Buddha's presence who hears the sutra from the Buddha, and the ultimate being the Buddha's own wisdom. Okay, so thus did I hear on a certain, that's samaya, the two things coming together. Thus did I hear on a certain occasion. The Blessed One was dwelling on the vulture heap peak at Rajagurha, together with a great community of monks and a great community of bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One entranced himself in the samadhi of teaching, the teaching samadhi called illumination of the profound. Now, the profound is freedom, emptiness, nirvana, the ultimate reality. Illumination of that is opening a view to one who is not yet aware or has not yet experienced, or doesn't, maybe we even say doesn't know that they have experienced that ultimate reality. And illumination is where it's showed to them, the light is shined, the door is opened, and they suddenly know their ultimate reality. So now you may or may not know, but a Buddha, one of the definitions of a Buddha is a being who is not trapped in the present. Of course, they're in the present, but their present includes all of the past and all of the future. They say, Triyadvanya, they know the path of all three times, which means they are completely aware of the future and the past in every moment. They have, in a way, gone beyond the illusion of fixed flow of time, of the flow of time as itself being something more substantial than it really is, which is the way we are. Okay, so this is what I want you to meditate on the fact that teaching samadhi. Now, samadhi, as you know, is kind of a one-pointed concentration, is its main meaning. But in the Buddhist view of beings, since our minds are totally interconnected at all times, without us necessarily knowing it, because we create a conceptual screen around ourselves where we shut out the mental space of other beings, and we think it's just our own mind that we know about, unless we're clairvoyant or something, which becomes like a sort of a like accidental thing, some people think, rather than a normal living being's faculty of empathy. And unless there's someone who sort of has that gift from their own future past life realization, where they know what other people are thinking more than we all do. But in a way, we all do know. We know it by body language. We know it by sort of the vibe. You know, we have a great expression in the West, the vibration. We know the vibration. But we claim we don't know it because we're ordinary, non-clairvoyant people. But Buddha, the weird state of a Buddha, not only are they at every moment of time, like they're in our future, with us in the future, They're in our past with us in the past, and their own past and their own future. It's because they don't really have an own in a way, or they do sort of, but their own is everybody's own. It's as if you were in a big room or a big auditorium, a big concert or something in a stadium, and you suddenly felt you were everybody in the stadium. And you were looking out of their faces, not just your own face. You sort of lost yourself in the mass. And human beings do that. That human identity is flexible enough, resilient enough, and negatively and positively. You can have negative mobs doing things that the individual person would never do. And sometimes you can have positive teams, individuals going beyond their ability in a group because they're in a kind of group mind. And we have the ability to do that. And based on our awareness of that ability, a Buddha is presented, I hope it's true. I'm not sure because I'm not a Buddha yet, but I hope it's true, that a Buddha is a being who is or identifies with everyone, infinitely, all beings. That's a very inconceivable possibility, but it's an expansion of our ability to empathize even with one person, or 10 people on a team, or hundreds of people in a mass riot or something, in a mob, or in a concert where you get lost in the music, with hundreds of other people in the mosh pit and so forth. I'm scared of such things personally, but I know they happen. So meditate that we are in the Buddha's moment on the Vulture Peak, Gurdakuta mountain. And he's opening this illumination of the profound field, because his samadhi, in that he perceives himself as being in everybody's mind at all times. Therefore, his samadhi creates a field in which everyone is a little closer to being aware of the profound. So try to think of that. Now, profound, it means deep. It means beyond what you see immediately in front of you that you think is the whole of things. The profound is the deepest nature, the realest reality at the depth of things, we think, normally. So we are now in that field. So meditate that we're in that field. And one of the amazing things about that field, openness, emptiness, it actually is the freedom of all things to interrelate with all the other things is actually what it is. The reason that we are free to do that, and therefore you are interrelated to your computer, the internet, me talking in the Catskill Mountains on a beautiful Sunday noon at my time, wherever you are, I don't know the time. We're all interconnected with that and so many other things. Wherever we are, there's broadcasts going whizzing back and forth. There's cosmic rays zooming down from Arcturus, the Arcturian constellation. There's it's inconceivable. What's atoms are buzzing, subatomic energies. It's beyond conception, beyond conceptualization. But we actually are experiencing it. And it's only a question of how much of our own experience are we allowing ourselves to know, since we define knowing as being able to pick something out and distinctively comprehend it and label it and categorize it and feel it sort of there under our knowledge, under our controlling knowledge. So we normally confuse conceptually knowing something by being able to name it and being able to envision it as a separate thing, distinct from the inconceivable mass of things. But we are actually experiencing the inconceivable mass of things, in fact. So the field of illumination of the profound is where we're not content with just thinking the things we think we know. We're not believing that what we think we know is all there is to know. We're pushing through it, investigating it, examining it like a scientist, analyzing it, taking it apart, dissecting it, looking at its deeper nature, getting down to its quantum level, its atomic level, then its quantum level, and then getting lost in whatever our theory is, and maybe opening to the possibility of the actual reality that we are in right now is something inconceivable. And we therefore know it only to the degree that we are open to the inconceivable. We're open to the, at first perhaps somewhat frightening, reality of anything is possible. Now, right away, we might be thinking in our mind, oh, this is too deep for me. I can't do that. I'm just sitting here at my computer listening and whatever, and I'm all distracted. And how can I concentrate on that? How can I concentrate on openness itself? Well, the way we concentrate on that is through negation, through critiquing, through criticality. Vipassana, that's what vipassana really means. Mindfulness. It doesn't just mean labeling something or like thinking about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 breaths. Those are rather more specific uses of mindfulness. The essence of the mindfulness is seeing the deeper nature of things, looking at them and not being carried away by their superficial appearance and our superficial labeling and sees them as objects by having a label for it, having them fit into our preconceived idea. This is a microphone in front of me. You're an audience of students scattered around the world. We're sitting in the illumination of the profound. The Sanskrit word for profound, by the way, is gambhiram. Gambhiram. It was one of the things, the first word the Buddha said upon his enlightenment, according to his autobiography in the Tibetan version. He said gambhiram. And interestingly, bira means some fear, actually. Biru means timidity, intimidation. Gam is the verb gam, to go. So going to the intimidating, going to the fearsome, going past the comforting surface and going deeper which is a little scary to us, letting go of our certainty of the surface. Gambhira. And that Shūnyatā karuṇa garbham, openness, the womb of compassion, that's equated with Gambhiram by Nāgārjuna in that context as well. As the highest teaching is Gambhiram. Little bit worrisome, anxious, provoking. When you have epiphany of the deeper nature of things, you feel maybe a little dizzy, you feel a little less secure holding onto the arms of your chair, because you're like not sure what is your hand, what is the skin of the surface, what is the nature of the wood. If you're in a wooden chair made of atoms, remember, atoms have electrons and zooming around a nucleus. They are like some buzzing thing, and then even their particles are unfindable according to Niels Bohr and Werner Heisenberg, and many other quantum physicists. Not all of them. Some still are digging for a theory in there, for a way of conceptually capturing that. But the mainstream ones have given that up. And instead, they're working with a surface that is less certain, but they're dealing with the certainty like they're more like surfers of the super subtle, like Ant-Man going into the quantum realm to save his friend. Dangerous place at first, because unfamiliar, perhaps ultimately not dangerous. Anyway, that's our meditation. So short meditation are my instructions from the inimitable Jime. So come out of meditative mode and go into regular listening mode. And I want to go further with the sutra. And I loved the little chant at the beginning of the session. And I love Tara Mandala. And I'm a big fan of Sutra Malioni, the reincarnation of Machik Labdran, the great female Milarepa of Tibet. And the Milarepa is the male Jime, Machik Labdran, the one mother lamp of teaching, Labdran. So the sutra continues. At the same time, the holy Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara, the great Messiah, was contemplating the practice of the profound transcendence of wisdom. And he realized that these 5 body and mind processes are free in their intrinsic reality. Now, first thing to mention there is Avalokita Ishvara. Ishvara means God. Avalokita means who looks on in a worrying, loving way, caring way. It is a critique. The name itself is a critique of the type of theism that existed in India, still does, in Buddha's time and still now, which is maybe better than nihilism or existential materialism. But the slight drawback is that with the name of that God that is supposedly the creator at that time in India, Brahma in Buddha's time, maybe later could be Vishnu, could be Shiva, but Brahma in Buddha's time, and is that seen as the creator, and therefore an absolute that creates a relative world and is the absolute ultimate outside of the relative world. And therefore the name of that being is Maha Ishvara. And Maha means great, huge, giant, big. So it's the idea that the power, that the absolute has a power. The absolute does something with its power. So therefore it's anti-rational, because absolute means non-relational. So therefore it can't create anything if it's absolute. It doesn't create anything. That's very key. It can't be absolute and yet relate by creating. Okay, in a logical, in common sense, just in common sense, even in the conceptual plane, relative plane. And so that, and then all the power is outside the relative. And in a way, the relative is rendered profane, meaningless, useless, without that outside being there, supposedly, guiding, protecting, creating, destroying. So the name Avalokiteshvara, Avalokita Ishvara, is that the real God is the loving care. And that is not, it's kind of a relative absolute. It's an absolute that does relate. It doesn't create suffering. That's the key. It only brings healing to a system where there is suffering. People think, but we'll see about that. So now Tara, Ontare Tutare Ture Swaha, that power of love, loving care, which is God in the Buddhist view, that is God. But it doesn't create anything that might be a problem for anybody. And it doesn't create anybody who has a problem either. Because it is an infinite wish for happiness. It is, and what is a wish for happiness? If it's a powerless thing, it's kind of nothing. But a wish for happiness that is a provision of an infinite energy to satisfy whatever need there is in any sensitive creature or being. That's real love. Love is where the will to the happiness of the beloved is the happiness, becomes the happiness of the beloved, is the happiness of the beloved. Not just an ineffectual wish, I wish they were, but of course they're not. It actually kindles the happiness of the beloved. That's what it is. And Buddha's discovery was not an absolute outside the world. It was it was not something that you have to have blind faith in. Because if you're caught in the conceptual world of samsara, and then you stagger around blindly, what on earth would possibly lead you to freedom? You would be bumping into everything. You can only find freedom by knowing everything, and therefore being able to maneuver through things, always in the better way. And given the infinity of life, there can be a very extreme level of that ability, like a relative absolute. And that relative absolute is love. And love, will to the happiness of all beings, naturally comes from the happiness of the lover, the true one. I love you and I couldn't live without you because I'm so miserable without you. That's greed. There may be a bit of love in it, anticipating, hoping for the love of the requital of the beloved, of that, eros type of love. But it's mixed with greed, actually. I want something. I love it because I want it. And they think that will make me happy. Whereas the real love, I want the beloved to be happy because I enjoy it so much. Why wouldn't I want everybody else to have it? That's real love. And that goes along with real compassion, which is, I can't bear that they don't enjoy it. I can't bear that. Because I feel it. Their feeling of it is my feeling. Because we are one in our separation. We are one in our distinctiveness. We're still one. So it's an inconceivable kind of oneness. Which, of course, this is a big question, but we'll come back to the inconceivable and the contradictory. How do we handle that? And then blind faith, which is without common sense to start with. But common sense coming to the end, which brings you to the inconceivable, is different. Okay. But that's a very hard one. But we'll come back to that. What I wanted to say was that kind of love is non-binary. Therefore, there is no difference at all between Avalokitaishvara, who in India and Tibet and around the rest of the world mostly is considered male, and Tara, who is considered female, except in East Asia, where for some reason they missed out on Avalokiteshvara as Tara. So they just think Avalokiteshvara can be either male or female, in that sense non-binary. And they don't so much use the word Tara. That's the name Tara did not make its way into East Asia for historical reason, I think. It is there now, and that's good. But it should be clear that it is same Avalokiteshvara, Guan Yin, Guan Shi Yin, Guan Yin. Because, the East Asian people never quite got into this absolutist, beyond the world creating the world. They didn't quite get there. They had a more strong, empathetic culture. And of all to the people, then spread out to the people. So they sort of deified the ruler, which was a relative being you could see, because you could see the ruler, very remote in their palace, but you could see them. So they didn't have the same kind of dualistic type of theism that India did and the West does, the Abrahamic traditions, except for the mystics get into a dualistic theism. So it's very significant in this deepest of sutras of the transcendent wisdom that the speaker of the sutra is the loving God, Tara Avalokiteshvara, Avalokiteshvara Tara. He's speaking it. He looks at his body-mind processes. Now, the five body-mind processes are your physical body, your sensational body, which is how your mind connects to the physical body. And the sensational means it's not feelings. It is feelings, but feelings in English can mean emotions. Very much so. I didn't want to hurt your feelings. You didn't mean you didn't jab them with a pin or something. You just meant emotionally. So feelings is not a good translation, but it's one that everybody's used to, and but they really need to straighten it out. Sensation, on the other hand, means a physical sensation, except it can also be a kind of excitement, something exciting, but that's a secondary use. So sensation is hot or cold, pain or pleasure or numbness. Those are only three kinds of sensations, and you can have them through the different senses of touch, smell, taste, hearing, and sight. And then mental being aware of a mind object and having pleasure, pain, or numbness because of the mind object, or indifference, or numbness, indifference because of a mind object. So those are the sensations. And then the next level is recognition. We have a cloud of recognitions, which are our thinking, actually, and our recognizing things. Like when I look at the screen in front of me, I say, that's a screen. I'm speaking English, etc. That's recognizing something. Sometimes if I had a thick accent, or I was mumbling or speaking too quickly, you wouldn't be sure if I was speaking English. But then you could recognize the words, but I'm going really quickly, and therefore you're not sure what I'm saying. And so like that. If I was speaking like a New Yorker, la 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 la, So that's the recognition aggregate or process. So physical body, sensational field, conceptual field or recognitional field, and then emotional field and deeper structures of awareness, like sense of time, sense of up and down, sense of space. And those are all deeper mental structures. And also emotions, reactions to the sensations and to the recognitions. The reaction, in a way, they're reactions, samskara, reaction, the reaction process, reaction aggregate. And then finally, there's consciousness itself, which we think of as just registering all of these things that are going on in our five body processes. And these five aggregates, skandhas, literally piles or heaps, skandhas in Sanskrit, pumba in Tibetan. But these five aggregates or processes are a very good heuristic way of dividing the body-mind field, the body-mind experience of the self, of one's own being, to look within, to find things in yourself. So you look into your emotional reactions, you look into your recognitional thinkings, and recognizing. So you look into your sensations, you look into the physical processes of your body and mind. You look into your physical of your body, rather. You look into all your consciousnesses. And at first, you might think your consciousness is a unitary thing. We definitely do. But when you start really looking at it, you realize that my consciousness is very involved in my sensation, my physical sensations. I'm sitting in a chair, I'm wearing a shirt. I have earphones on my head, I have glasses in front of my eyes. I feel all these things with my body. And I have a sense of smell, a little bit neutral. I have a taste from whatever I ate for breakfast. I have sound. I'm hearing mostly my own voice. I have visual, especially we're a lot in our visual field. I'm seeing things. I see trees outside the window. I see sunshine. I see the window frame. I see the ceiling. I see the lights. I see the screen, and I don't see you. Unfortunately, I like to have a gallery thing in Zoom where I can see people's face. But anyway, I can imagine you're all there, I hope. But you realize that and then my mind goes and it attaches to my hearing or my seeing or my smelling or my tasting or my touching or my inner mental imaginings, and moves around among them. And it's very complicated to actually find my mind. And then when I do try to find it, I just start doing mindfulness. I try to go deeper. I try to find what is the real mind. I realize that I feel there is a real mind, sort of the ultimate mental resource or source. But if I actually so far I have failed to find that. I've been looking. That's a really big meditation that we're kind of doing today together. We're looking for that real self. My old Mongolian teacher, who was my original root teacher, the Venerable Döngyalé Tsenibete, I mentioned him for a teaching purpose, the Reverend Geshe Wangyal, who was Mongolian actually, but 35 years in Tibet. He used to say, people think they're real, and they're not wrong. They are real. But where they go a little off is when they think they're really real. And in other words, we over-exaggerate the degree of our reality because we think that inside me, there's a real Bob Thurman essence in there. There's a Bob Thurman, fixed soul, a Bob Thurman identity, something that never changes. That's the real essence of me. And so this meditation of freedom, and of course, once I feel that, when I have an emotion of anger or greed or lust or depression and confusion, it seems like it's an absolute thing. It takes me over. Anger is the worst one because then I go I punch walls with my fist. I hurt somebody else. I say terrible things that I don't mean to people. I do all sorts of stupid things because my body, mind, and speech become taken over by something that seems to come from a absolutely obeyable source, a non-avoidable, unquestionable source, which is the absolute me. So I can't question it. I always like to mention my guru, one of my gurus, who is a great Eckhart Tolle, who's not even a Buddhist. Not consciously, he is kind of a Buddhist because he's a mystic. All mystics are Buddhists. Not in an sense. They're all enlightened, let's just say. Okay, forget the word Buddhist. They're all enlightened mystics because they are going toward the inconceivable. And he tells his own origin story as a great teacher, a world teacher, which he is, which is he was going to commit suicide because he was a student, I think, graduate student, and his inner voice coming from his identity, what he thought of as his absolute voice in thought, was telling him everything is worthless, you are worthless, the world is worthless, life is worthless. And he was kind of circling around the drain like the sink when it's empty. And then somewhere from deeper within himself, another voice rose, which he also identified as Eckhart's voice. And that said, why are you listening to that voice that says you're worthless and it's worthless and everything is worthless? Why do you listen to that? That's wrong. That's questionable. You shouldn't act on that. that's not to be listened to. And he saved his life because that was a realization of the relativity of his thinking. If you follow me, that was the realization of the relativity of his thinking. So it was a lifesaver. So I love that example. So mindfulness is just a warm-up for the deep vipassana, which is the quest of the self. It's not meditating on selflessness, like put your mind one pointed on selflessness. That's just going to send you down a hole into a kind of feeling of nothingness, and you will confuse selflessness with nothingness. Selflessness is a condition of a self. That's a very important point. That is to say, when you discover that yourself is a relatively real self through and through, and your identity is not an unchanging same thing, it's a continuum of a constantly changing process at the subtle level of that process. The subtle subjectivity of a changing process is itself changing all the time. So you are a work in progress or a work in decay, one or the other, depending on whether you have yourself in hand, aiming toward garbham, the profound, seeking the profound, being a being who insists that you're going to know the meaning of life. You're going to know the meaning of yourself. You're going to know why you're doing what you're doing and what is therefore among the things you could be doing, what is important and what are your priorities. Because you're stuck with being. You're stuck with being there. Here you are. Be here now. Now doesn't escape you into some other place. In fact, be here now pushes you toward the garbham, the profound. That's a little scary. Why? You can never find the now. You may be in the now, but you can never find it. When you look for now, it's going by instantly. The minute you look, it's gone. The minute you look, it's gone. The minute you look, it's gone. Oh, but it was my looking that was in the now. Oh, wait, but I didn't know about my looking. My looking was looking for the sort of general thing, and it disappeared into the past, and it's going into the mysterious future. And it's like, a line has no width, a true line between this room and the next room. The true line has no width. So you're never on the line. You can say, I crossed it, but you're just imagining a line. Because anything that you see, like a written line, is a narrow rectangle, right? Very, very narrow rectangle. And so it's too narrow for you to be in the rectangle. And the real now is just a line, past becoming future. So it's very frustrating to be here now because you can't. You're just future falling into the past, which you can't find, and a future which you don't know yet, and it's falling into the past. And the past is unsatisfactory, and the future you're really scary about. What could it bring? You're nervous about it, anxious, right? But nevertheless, trying to do that anyway, in a way already means you're sort of insisting on having a little hold of some of the past and some of the future, and you can expand through that to be everywhere, like every when, rather. We don't even have that word. We have an everywhere word. We don't have an every when word. Every when, we have to say in all times. But every when would be when you're a Buddha. You're every when. You're every when as well as everywhere. Permeating every when and everywhere. Isn't that fun? That will be great. Well, it will be fun, except if there's a lot of beings who you feel you are at that time, who are miserable. Some extremely so, who are not even human. Then you have to work for them because you love them, meaning you want them to be happy. And luckily, you have infinite resources because that was Buddha's discovery. That energy we call clear, he called it clear light of the void, Prabhasvara, which, by the way, is the name of the highest heaven of Brahma, is Prabhasvara, also clear light. But in a way, his heaven is not the clear light of the void, because clear light of the void is just as much this place or hell or any kind of place than a heaven. And but it's a doorway. Brahma usually is a bodhisattva who has reached the 10th stage and ready to be Buddha. And that's why they like Buddha. And in different worlds, Brahmas are the ones who help Buddha to teach. They give him what's called the wheel of Dharma. So then Avalokiteshvara Tara says, oh, wow, because he is sensitive, he's very close to Buddhahood himself, herself, themselves, their selves. So when Buddha opens the field of illumination of the profound, they are there. Avalokiteshvara Tara, non-binary love is there. And happy as a bee. And they're just contemplating. And they immediately realize that they're already clear light. They're already emptiness. Because freedom, void means free. Void means absolute. So they're absolute in their intrinsic reality, meaning they're free of any relative intrinsic reality. So they're free of any absolute within the relative. Emptiness is as a negation means, or freedom as a negation means free of something, empty of something. Relative things are empty of non-relative essences. That's very, very key. Because if your soul is a non-relative thing, how do you relate to it? How does it relate to the world? It doesn't really relate well to the world. So being in that situation makes you automatically say something's wrong with me. And I don't feel this world is absolute. And so I don't think it's safe, actually. A bad relative thing might happen to me, but my real me is somehow stuck in me, even though it's absolute. How can an absolute thing be stuck in a relative thing? Being stuck means to relate, or being imprisoned is to relate. So then the concept of being transcendent comes from that. We come to decide, well, I must go beyond whatever I see. And so maybe there is a beyond I can go and be safe in. And this is where you have what's called dualistic Buddhism, which is Theravada Buddhism. And that Theravada is a composite of 8 of the 18 different like monastic, dualistic, mendicant Buddhist orders in India. There was 10 of them called Mahasangika, the great community orders, and 8, or it might be the other way, 8 and 10. Don't blame me if I mix the numbers at my age. They're like half of them. But the point is, they're saying that nirvana is a place outside the world you have to get to. And that's very similar to the Hindus who want to have a supreme self that's outside of the life, because they also think God is outside the world, even though supposedly he creates it. They don't like the idea that God is purely relative. Nirguna Brahman, their greatest non-dualist, Shankaracharya, they kicked him out after a century or two, because once there's no absolute outside the relative that is relevant to the relative, because of the absolute being incapable of relating, which is just simple common sense. Once that is the case, then all of the structures of their caste system and belief systems and rigid rules and regulations are relative, which only doesn't mean they can't apply, actually, can't be there, but it only means that they can be changed. It only means they're human-made. They're relationally made, so they can be relationally bettered, modified, improved. And that makes people frightened, because it puts the responsibility on them to fix the world. They can't say some absolute creator has responsibility, as long as I I believe in that creator, then I'll be fine. Okay? That's the difference. Instead, I have some responsibility of creating. Right? It's like a democracy. If you have a divine right of kings, then you can say, you can complain about the king, this and that, but you just obey the king, and you feel you're being realistic to feel powerless. But a democracy, Thomas Paine made the great, beautiful simile for that, where the royal crown is smashed and the shards of the jewels are, one little shard of all the royal crown jewels are given to each individual. But his day, each individual white male landowner, but everyone, actually, all men are created, all humans are created equal. So everyone has a tiny shard of the responsibility, and therefore people have to try to know what's really going on. They can't fall for this rhetoric, and you can't be hypnotized by propagandists. That's a key. That's the only AI. The only AI is all of us thinking critically and voting. If we live in a dictatorship, trying to escape from it, actually, or change it, if that, sometimes that's not possible for a time. It's always possible because they always fall apart because they're so inefficient and they're so oppressive, so incompetent, actually. So, but back to our meditation, our teaching. So this is the thing. Now, another important thing to do, therefore, when you meditate on the deepest meditation of this gambhiram, to find Shūnyatā, karuṇa, garbham, to find the real compassion that comes from total empathy of everyone, not just your one beloved or your close family, but everyone. You feel their pain. Like the great Bill Clinton used to go around feeling people's pain. And he really did. That was why he was such a great leader. He just molested a few people wrongly. He felt their pain, and he was too much involved in his own pain. And he didn't really do the best thing for them. And he molested a few people too many. And so he had flaws, but that's human. But he's gotten better since, I think. I'm sure. Wonderful person. Fantastic person. Really. Really excellent. So okay, so then have a look at this. I'll come back to the sutra. So then Shariputra, who is sort of representing us, our ordinary dualistic people, he asks Avalokiteshvara Tara, asks them, these great messiahs. Tara, by the way, means messiah. Actually, the English word from the Hebrew messiah, I think it's a Hebrew word originally, messiah. And I think in English there is a feminine of messiah, which is messias, I-E-S-S, which if you don't pronounce it right, messias, it sounds bad, like a chauvinist thing of saying women are messy. Never mind. Messiahs. So Tara means messiahs, the messiahs. Tara means savior. It's not just a protector. It's not just a whatever. She's a savior. She saves you from suffering. She does. These are non-binary Jesuses for the Buddhist world. Avalokiteshvara Tara. There are many of them. Also, they allow, which I'm sure Jesus himself does the same thing, actually, but the Western people just couldn't figure that out. So they enclosed him in being one person, one body, and they're waiting. They think he left, and they're waiting for him to come back. But actually, a being who's reached that enlightened stage of him, who is one with all the gods, one with the clear light, which is what gives the infinite energy of all deities, of all gods. There's no limit to the amount of embodiments and the amount of presence that they can have. That's why Jesus can be there for anybody who believes in him truly, dying lovingly, and will be there even for the bad guys. He says he won't be there for the bad guys in the scripture. He says that in order to try to make them behave. But he will be there for everyone. He's a wonderful Messiah. And so is Tara, and so is Avalokiteshvara. So actually, between the two sets of them, they got it covered. And in the verses that wrong interpreters later said were bad verses, they called them satanic verses in Islam. Allah said he liked to have those goddesses in Mecca, which were all the great Middle Eastern goddesses, coming way back from Egypt and Babylon and everywhere. Aisha, Tiamat, to the great river goddesses, the Nile, the Tigris, Euphrates. The Abrahamics have this problem about the Shekinah, that it's just a matter of theological mistakes. It's not their founders. No, who were mystics, who saw the motherliness of God. God is non-binary. They saw that. The mystics all know that. Never mind. So not just male, that's a silly projection from patriarchy, militaristic patriarchy. It's time to go beyond. So anyway, Shariputra is dualistic, and he's feeling this deep thing. So he wants to know, well, what can we deal with this? How can we get into this profound? It scares him. Scares everyone. Transcend everyone who thinks that their separateness from the rest of the universe is scary, actually. That's the first noble truth. If you are a separate reality, really separate, and the universe is really other than you, different than you, it is intelligent to be scared, because who knows what's out there? It's infinite. There could be like voracious dragons swallowing our whole solar system from another dimension. They'll show up in 1 second. You can't say no, given infinity. Anything is possible. So naturally you're scared if you think you're separate from it all. That's the first friendly, fun fact, is that makes suffering. It's because it's not the case, is why. It's not because the first noble truth is not reality, it is unreality. It's pointing out what is unreal. It's pointing out that reality wherein we inevitably suffer is fortunately not the real reality. The real reality is nirvana, which is not elsewhere from this. It's what we actually are in right now. Non-duality means you and I, this Sunday morning, afternoon, evening, depending on where you are on this round circling planet, which is just a model of what the egg that we're living on. Wonderful. It's herself an amazing bodhisattva goddess, an amazing messiahess. She's saving us from the cold expanses of outer space and the rocks and the fires and the crashing meteorites by making this beautiful planet with its atmosphere and its ocean and its trees and its plants and its oxygen. And beautiful, where we can thrive and run around and become Buddhas. Become totally happy, that means. And totally loving and kind to everybody else. That's what it means. Doesn't mean lording it over other people. It's being equal to all other people and realizing that all humans, and not only that, but all animals are equal. They are all equally valuable. They're all equally great. Human has the best opportunity to realize that fully and therefore help other animals reach that stage to realize that too. So he asks, well, how? And because he's a male, dualistic male, chauvinist, but he's a very wise and nice one, Shariputra. He's hanging out with these non-binary messiahs and messiahesses. And he says, how do you learn this? How can you practice it, learn it and practice it? And then the Holy Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara, the great Messiah, addressed the Venerable Shariputra thus. Shariputra, now this is the great teaching. The East Asian version of the Heart Sutra, there's a short version where it just gives this teaching. They don't have this setting which shows the connection of compassion, because Avalokiteshvara is pure compassion. His whole body is compassion. Actually, all of our bodies are compassion, but we don't know that. But he knows that. The reason we have bodies is to reach out toward the beings we're interconnected with, because mind to mind is a little too wishy-washy. You can shake hands. When you have a body, you can give a caress, you can receive one. Then the Holy Bodhisattva, the great Messiah, addressed the Venerable Shariputra thus. Shariputra, when any noble son or noble daughter, and he adds daughter, notice, he knows about non-binary. Have a look at this for us. He doesn't say noble son. He says when any noble daughter. And by noble, he means something different than somebody of upper class. He means an upper class cognition that is more altruistic and less selfish. That's what noble means to him. That's another story, but that's any one word we could go endlessly to try to deeply understand it. But we traditionally say noble, but I has a lot to say about it. He says, when any noble son or noble daughter, that really means friendly. It means loving, any loving son or loving daughter wishes to engage in the practice of the profound transcendence of wisdom. He or she should realize it in this way. These 5 body and mind processes should be truly realized to be void of any intrinsic reality. Now that's okay. Well, wait, you say, wait a minute, but the intrinsic reality of is voidness. And here it says void of it. So it doesn't have intrinsic reality. Oh, then how can the intrinsic reality be voidness? Yes, you know what? Words are always dualistic, can always be contradicted. That's an important point to understand. None of this is dogma. This is not only there to stimulate your understanding. Okay? So just follow it. That means matter. But here's the real kicker. Matter is voidness. Now, you might be sitting at a table, or just tap, put your knuckle on the table, tap, tap, tap. Wait a minute. I thought voidness was some sort of space. Oh, I want to get spaced out. I know some Dharma teachers tell me I should space out and then I'll know voidness. Well, I don't think so. Matter is voidness. So this matter right here, this table is matter. I think, well, of course, it might be like atoms and subatomic matter and quantum particles that you can't never find. And so in a way, maybe it isn't. It's an illusion of matter. But anyway, when he says matter, he means my knuckle, and that's my body, and the body of this table. Person and thing is voidness. So me knocking my knuckle on the table, that is voidness. The sound, the resistance of the table to my knuckle is voidness. So the freedom is this. Wow, that's opposite of what I think. Now, that may seem impossible to you, okay? But here's a wonderful example called the mirror wisdom from the Tibetan wonderful teaching, high tantric teaching. And that is, if you're looking at your face or hand in the mirror, but let's say face, because that's what you do every day. You look at your face. If you're a male, you go shave or you wash your face. If you're a female, you put your face on. We have that expression, right? So you look at a face. And at one time in your life, you thought it was a window, or you didn't even know about the window. You thought there was another person in that direction. And you didn't even, when you first saw it, you didn't even know what it looked like you, because you didn't know what you looked like. And so you reached out to touch that person, and then you clunked into the surface of the mirror. Oh, what is that then? Then you thought maybe it was a window, but you couldn't get through to the other side. And then, sooner or later, and finally, and then, et cetera, and then you see yourself in the mirror, and then you think you know what you look like. All right? So you could be looking at yourself in the mirror, like right now. I'm looking at my own face. That's one thing boring about StreamYard. It's very good for audio and good for reproduction. So it's good quality. Lama Live, and I congratulate them. But I can't see any of you. But so all I keep seeing is my own dumb face. So nice face. I'm smiling. I'm pretty jolly, actually. And, old, but nice. And I look there, and my right eye looks like my left eye. My left eye looks like my right eye. So for some reason, there's a left-right switch. And, but that doesn't bother me. And I correct my misperception that I'm seeing someone somewhere else through the internet than myself. And I can say, that if I look at my eyes and my nose, I can say there's no nose. That is not a nose. That is not an eye. That is not a mouth. That is not a cheek. That is not a forehead. That is not an earphone. That is not a picture of a mandala. That is not. I can just go and say no about all of it. Because there's an illusory quality to the reflection, if this was a mirror. And in this case, there's an illusory quality to the video image. And that's what Avalokiteshvara is saying. He's not saying that the illusion is not there. He's saying that the illusion is not really what it seems to be. So he's saying it's not what it seems to be. So he's saying, therefore, the clear light, the reality of the thing, is the thing that seems to be opposite to the reality. Because when we think of freedom, we don't think of a table. We don't think of a material table. When we think of emptiness, we think of space. And that's good. That has a use phenomenologically, let's say experientially, that has a use. That's fine that we think that. But in fact, it's an illusion. And so he's pointing out the illusoriness of it. But, we are very addicted to our illusions of the ordinary reality that we think is ordinary, which actually we have constructed. Culture helps us construct it. Our previous lives help us, instincts help us construct it. Our senses then reconfirm it all the time. And we bump into the table, bump into the matter. So we think it's real, and we think the thing that we're bumping into is real, and the two are really different. He's saying, no, they're both absolute reality. So what emptiness is pointing out the absoluteness of the relativity, actually, which is a paradox in a certain binary sense. But it's also common sense. It is really very simple. You shouldn't feel it's a very highfalutin thing that you can't figure out. It's very simple. For example, take any example. About finitude. You say, I'm a finite being. And then, there might be infinity, which is everything else. And and actually humans will think, oh, there's a limited size of the universe. It's only so big. But then what? It's sitting in nothingness? Then they're making nothing into something outside the universe, which is ridiculous. A limit means something on both sides. Something's inside the limit, something's outside the limit. The limit has no meaning if there's nothing outside. Absolutely none. It's just you get lost in confusion. Because there is no nothing, by the way. That's a really important thing that emptiness teaches us, that there's no nothing. There's the emptiness of nothing or nothingness, and nothingness, nothing and nothingness. The emptiness of them is really important. And the emptiness of emptiness is really important. That is, it's not like there's a space within which all the things are there. The things themselves are just as empty as any spaces between them. And similarly, the spaces between them are just as real in the illusory reality as the things, as the hard things, the matter. All right? It's really flattens the universe in a certain way. And what is the result of that flattening? Just to quickly jump ahead, since we want to really meditate on this. So what is the result of that? If this is your absolute, right now, what you're doing, everything about you, you're drawing breath, you're inhaling, exhaling, holding your breath, looking at the TV, thinking, whatever you're doing, looking at the screen, whatever you're doing, that's all the absolute. And some of it is not so nice. You don't really like your chair, you don't have a good screen, you're not listening, you're getting distracted, you think about other things, etc. Improving it is also absolute. And it should be makeable where everything is nice. And Buddha encourages you. Buddha manifests as a seeming different body, as a seeming different speech, as a seeming different mind that has a different understanding, that's better. Manifest like that to encourage you that yours can be better, your body, speech, and mind. Actually, he feels you already fine, but he knows you don't know it. And you feel very unfine and unsatisfied and very often depressed and frustrated and suffering. Because you don't understand yourself. You don't understand your world. You don't understand that you are your world. But conceptually you can understand. We are all infinite too. That is to say, infinity does not honor a boundary between my skin and the air outside my skin. Because the infinity has to permeate me as much as anything outside of me, right? It wouldn't be infinite if I wasn't permeated by it. So in a way, it cancels my finitude. If infinity is a bigger reality, it's bigger than my small finitude reality. On the other hand, it allows my infinite reality, my finite reality. It doesn't interfere with it. That's interesting. And it also doesn't save me from making my finite reality worse and worse by being harmful to myself or anybody else, harming my situation here. It doesn't do that. I have to take responsibility for that. Although there are many, many magical beings, deities, angels, other great human teachers, there are many beings who are trying to help me not mess it up. But I can still do it. And there's no limit to how much it can be improved. They can demonstrate to me in various ways to encourage me to come out of my snail shell. There's some Frenchman is not going to be there to have me as an escargot. I can open up. Open up. That is emptiness. So that's compassion. That's doing something about the intolerable suffering of any being, myself or any other. Compassion for yourself, compassion for all beings. We are ourselves made, we have this many zillions of beings in our microbiome. Billions. We are amazing composite of beings, we human. We somehow are an organization of them where we can bring them with us into happiness is the key. Yeah. We can heal them. We can detoxify them. We can balance them. And that's what we're trying to do at Menla. That's what you're doing at Tara Mandala with your wonderful Lama and other Lamas who have learned a lot from her and are spreading that. Any good Lama is a community. So everyone in the community is also the Lama. And therefore, they are able to help. They're only there to help others also. Okay, so he goes on. It's very shocking. Matter is voidness. People say form is emptiness. So then form can sort of be empty, like form. What's a form? It's a very vague thing. Matter is knock on wood. Matter is hard thing. Form, yes, wood is a certain form, but there's no wrong. But it just leaves it vague. Whereas the shock is matter is emptiness. Emptiness is matter. Or I like even voidness because it makes more of a shock. Freedom also makes a big shock. Matter is voidness. Voidness is matter. Voidness is not other than matter. Neither is matter other than voidness. So he rubs it in four ways. This paradox, this reconciliation of dichotomies, which is a different kind of reconciliation. It is where you hold both things in your mind, leaving they're making them so much reconciled that you can keep them apart. Something like that. Simultaneously. So they're all one and they're individual at the same time. They're indivisible and individual and individual. at the same time. And I almost fainted once when I read in a secondary source. I don't know where in his letters or in some book or where he did it. But the great Gatsby writer, F. Scott Fitzgerald, once wrote, apparently, that the sign of a great mind is someone who can hold two opposite things in their mind at the same time without collapsing them into some superficial resolution, and without or collapsing to one side or the other and excluding the other one, but hold them in their mind, both of them, giving them full balance, the tolerance of ambiguity. That's what enlightenment is, a supreme tolerance of ambiguity, you could say, rather than some collapsing into some state of pure space, or be sort of like death, practically, like inability to relate to anything or anybody, parinirvana as like a kind of death. Pari never doesn't mean final, by the way. Ultimate nirvana, pari nirvana, it means complete. Pari means total, holistic nirvana. Holistic nirvana is where Buddha doesn't bother to manifest a separated body embodiment, because he is the infinitely every embodiment. That's total nirvana. So you become, when you become Buddha, you become the bliss in every being. And then that bliss is job. You're aware that everyone that experiences you as bliss in them is you, same as you. And then they join you. And then everyone who doesn't, who suppresses their own bliss because they're scared, they might be too open, somebody might hurt them, something bad might happen to them, they're all uptight. Then how to get them to open to their own Buddhahood inside their Buddha nature, which is actually where you are one with them, where Buddha, all Buddhas, from time immemorial and from the future, are one with all of us now. Okay? And okay, I think I'm getting late, and we want to maybe, I think there's a questioning thing. If we have more than an hour, I forget. I don't know how long we have. I forgot. I'm getting old, So the email can interrupt me, please, at any time. But I just wanted to say my final statement to you on this meditation is, this might be we didn't get that very far through here. And it goes very heavy duty. Bang, bang, bang. There's no matter, no cessation, no conception, no emotion, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mentality, no form, no color, no sound, no scent, no taste. So, when you look in the mirror, you can look at your own face and say, there's no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue. Don't worry, your image doesn't disappear if you don't jump out of the reflective field. Okay, and you're not hurting anything by saying there's no. You're just being realistic that's an illusion. And when you can wear your own body as if it had, not as if it didn't exist at all, but as if it exists in a slightly illusory way, then you have the option of being different. And then you can become a Buddha. Then you can grow into Buddhahood, into enlightenment through love and through wisdom and knowing your oneness with others and loving them all and feeling that way and loving yourself more. And you don't take yourself that seriously, but you take your illusion illusorily seriously, that your illusion can seriously be better and be happier and can be more of a source of happiness for others. So that's where Shūnyatā karuṇa garbham, where emptiness becomes compassion. Because when you're completely loving to others, and that doesn't mean erotically necessarily, greedily making them love you or something and molesting them in some way. No, it means really caring for them. So only what they need. And they don't always think they need what they do need. And that's what's complicated. Like a social worker will tell you, a parent will tell you, a child will tell you about the dumb parent. A brother and sister will tell you about each other. Okay? So, but what I'm saying is, the Tibetan genius that Machi Labdran, that Lama Tsutrim teaches, really at the heart of her effectiveness competency and greatness in helping people, helping you through the Tara Mandala, and Tara's greatness, and why Tara can save us from being gobbled up by anacondas, according to the faith of billions of people in history. The Messiahs, and have a look at this one too, but Messiahs is particularly more competent, actually, because females are more realistic. That's why, than males. But both are non-binary in the case of the true loving beings. They're both they. So it's that they would be despaired in trying to make a Tara Mandala. They would be forget about it, it's useless type of thing. They wouldn't teach, they wouldn't translate, they wouldn't do anything. Build beautiful mandalas, buildings, communities, except that they see the good in you. The good is your happiness, your joy. It's your Buddha nature, meaning your openness to all life and all love, and your lovingness of yourself and everything. It's actually, your lovingness is your health, by the way. Your vital force is how loving you are, because the different organs in your body working together, this microbiome, all the little micro beings working together, loving each other, being happy, the different cells in your hand loving to be connected to the next cell. They don't want some rogue cell in there that doesn't like the other cells, but they do love that one too, but they just don't want it in the wrong place. So they move it and they try to convert it into a healthful cell that's doing the work of interconnectedness, not one that's roguely going rogue and destroying its hosts. Selfishness, self-centeredness is destructive. It's rogue. It harms the one who's selfish. It's bad for the self. Selflessness is good for the self. That's the key. That is. And so they see that, and Buddha sees that. And the great thing is, this time now is also illusion, that we're in this time and not in the future and not in the past. We're everywhere we've ever been. And we can, if we don't even know that's it. And now finally I'm closing. You know, my new book, I never promote my own books, so I'm going to promote my book. My book is this one, Wisdom is Bliss. And it is 4 friendly, fun facts that can change your life, which are the 4 noble truths. But because noble sounds like some snobby thing. Truth sounds like something you're supposed to believe. You don't have to believe that all is suffering. You don't. You just have to face the fact that if you remain stupid, you know, AS, artificial stupidity. That's what we should scare of, not artificial intelligence, stupidity. And if you think you're a being that's fighting the universe and losing, then you're going to suffer, of course. But you don't have to believe that. You have to face it. And then you don't have to believe the cause. You have to understand it. You have to analyze it. And then you have to go and prevent that cause, which is your delusion. It's not nobody else does it to you. It's your own wrong structure. And which you can correct. A human being can't correct. If you're a tiger, you can't. You can't. True matter is voidness. You're not going to listen. You're going to eat that deer. That's it. But human can pause before gobbling down whatever it is and think about, what is this? The other thing, what is me? What is this? What is that? And figure out reality, what's really good. And when we get to be Buddha in some future life, we'll know that we're already there now. And we've always been there. And the profound is peaceful. It is uncomplicated. It is luminous, energy that's filled with energy. It is pure energy, pure bliss. And Not just light without being scared of dark. Light, it's transparency, actually, which is luminous. But it's not scared of dark. And uncreated, always been the case. So we will know that. So what we will know then will enable us to revise what we think we know right now. And we'll know that this is bliss. And I love talking to you, and I'm grateful to you. I'm grateful to Lama Tutramayoni, Machik Labdun, His Holiness Dalai Lama, Jime, Chandra, every enlightening being that there is in the world. And for giving me opportunity to think about these things, because that cheers me up. It consoles me for my frustrations with Ukraine, with crazy Putin, crazy Xi, crazy, all of the crazies, the domineering patriarchs who are just not enjoying. They should take a break and enjoy themselves instead of harming themselves and others, which makes me very, very upset. But they'll get over it, and we'll get over them, and we will. But the more they do, the harder it will be for them. It's the problem. So thank you so much. And if there's time, I'm happy to answer any question. We didn't finish reading the sutra. I always try to read the sutra. I'm just imitating His Holiness, the Dalai Lama, and many Zen people who always recite a version of a Heart Sutra. And His Holiness loves it when he does big teaching, even initiation or whatever he might be doing on any topic. There's big, huge people. He has somebody recite, and in Vietnamese or in Japanese or Chinese or Korean or English or Hindi or Telugu or Tamil, whatever language, German, French, Spanish, Portuguese, Italian, Czech, Russian, every language. And he just loves to hear it. And he takes it very seriously when he hears it, even he doesn't know the language, because it is magic. And actually, the wonderful Kalachakra Tantra, this behind me is Kalachakra Mandala, the wheel of time. Sort of time, all moments in the present, sort of one of the great symbols of that. Present encompassing, and present not being a nothingness outside of time. There's no outside of time. It's inside of all time. It's everywhere. And this is a great symbol of it, is the wheel of time. And when he does that, he also recites, when Buddha taught that, according to the tradition, on the vulture heap peak, which is a very ominous peak. A vulture heap, when vultures are on a carcass, they jump all over each other to get out the corpse. and so they make like a heap of consumption, and so it isn't really a vulture peak, it's vulture heaping. Gudrakuta, kuta means a heap. Parvata is a mountain. And at that same time, he presented himself as inside in a magic space in South India as a Kalachakra with a female with many arms and many of 2 legs, 24 arms, and so on, with 2,721 emanations around him in this special mandala, and he embraced a whole nation in that mandala, simultaneously with teaching the Heart Sutra type of teaching, short and long versions. Okay, if there's any question, I'm happy to answer. Are there some questions?
Yes, maybe you could answer like one question symbolically.
Okay, whatever you say.
All right. So this is a question from Sue. I once heard you give a different interpretation of the Heart Sutra mantra, where you don't use the common phrase gone, gone, gone beyond, gone, totally beyond. Can you briefly give that again?
Oh, yes. Well, because I learned from recently, actually, from Kim Stanley Robinson, who is a great sci-fi environmentalist, and a sci-fi novelist, who wrote, and I recommend this as homework to everybody. It's called The Ministry for the Future. It's a novel, gripping novel, but it's so much our predicament also, that it's sci-fi, has real traction on the path of the now. Wow. Anyway, the sum in the Samgate, sum means total, it literally, but it means total by connecting to everything else. So he translated that in another novel that he wrote called The Green something, or I forgot. It's a very fun one too, but you can see if you see his list. He translated that mantra as gone together rather than total. So the sam is combining things, which it can be used as a prefix in Sanskrit. So he saw something in the original that I had never noticed. I was so stuck on the dualistic transcendentalizing. And so then I used to trade gone, totally, gone, very gone, para, gate, paragate, very gone, para really means very gone. So paragate, I think, really is where you have what's called space-like equipoise samadhi, where you don't find any non-empty thing, and you think you found emptiness, because it seems like the table or the chair around you, to you. So you feel you sort of split from everything. And in a way, it's like Sariputra attained that kind of a nirvana where he felt he was apart from everything else. And yet when everything else didn't disappear, when he didn't, pulverize the universe, although the wisdom is ready to pulverize the universe, when you're looking for what's solid in it, because you're challenging questioning your sense of making everything so super solid and taking the ordinary reality as the ultimate reality and investing intrinsic reality in everything, to projecting from your own sense of your own intrinsic reality, the unique Bob Thurman thing that is an absolute. By projecting absolutes everywhere based on feeling absolute about myself. To break that, you need the drill, the diamond drill of taking everything apart. That's why that kind of intelligence is connected with hatred, actually, with analysis, with anger. It's the anger against this impossible world of self and other, where both are so solid that it's just you versus other, and other will always beat you. And therefore you try to fight with them, and you hurt them, and then they want to beat you. They do, and they should when you're being mean. And so that's when you have space like equipoise samadhi, when you're really drilling to make sure that the seeming reality of the matter around you is as real as it seems. And that's what the scientists did. That's how they got to atoms, cells, and atoms and subatomic particles. And then they got past subatomic particles, actually, which means there was nothing. They couldn't find anything, but that doesn't mean they found nothing, because there's no nothing there either. It's just that there's nothing you can catch, nothing you can control everything through with your self-centered projections. Okay? There's nothing, but that means you have everything is there totally, and you're interfused with it all, is what it means. So it's not you don't find nothing, what you find is everything. And the boundary between you and everything is there. So therefore, the parasam gate, the fourth thing, om gate para sam gate. Sam means, which I had said total, totally something going. I had really two words that have the same meaning. Para for sa and sam. Whereas Kim Stanley taught me that the sam, he intuitively, as an artist, all artists have some enlightenment for sure, more than some other people, like dummies like me, real artists. And the sum means all together. The total means that it brings the illusion all in there back. So parasamgate is the final thing it's the great perfection connections. It's sort of like Dzogchen, which people translate the great completion of the great perfection, because they're going on a literal meaning of Dzog in Tibetan, 4 centuries after that Dzogchen was first taught by Guru Rinpoche in Tibet. Whereas the Dzog there is translating Sandhi, not Nishpana. So it's not translating completion, it's translating connection. And so it's the connection of clear light and the magical illusory body. So the whole universe comes back as the magic. And that's enlightenment, is that non-duality. It isn't some going beyond. So I was mistakenly saying totally, utterly gone or something. I forgot what I said. You repeated what I said. So I was wrong. And I got corrected by an artist. And I'm so pleased and delighted. So the fourth one is where the space fills with the illusion. But the space is like the mirror surface. And the illusion is just as much there as the mirror surface. True. And then you don't want to project it. The mirror surface is absolute. That's why no analogy will deal with non-duality. Non-duality has no simile. There are many good ones. Mirror is the best, but even that is not perfect because there seems to be a hierarchy of reality between the mirror surface, which is the real, and the illusory reflection in the mirror surface. So there's still a duality there in the simile. But in non-duality, there's no duality. Matter is void as the space. So the illusion is just as ultimate as the non-illusion, if you will. And that relates to the voidness of voidness, that there is no real voidness. And that saves you from being stuck like many mystics who think when they get that space-like thing, that's the heart of God or something like Meister Eckhart. He said, oh, the heart of God is the desert. So they kind of do a death. They have a death. They have an ego death. They experience death. And they think of death as a space and they go unconscious in the space because there's no object. Seems to be no object. And there's no subject. Once there's no object, there's no subject. So they seem disembodied in a space and then by miracle, they're back. So then they're just loving God, still with their notion that it's all God's doing. Whereas they're part of it. God doesn't want that. He wants them to be responsible. He wants us to love each other. And he said so. Jesus said so. But they don't listen. Oh, no. Oh, yeah. Well, God make me love that neighbor I hate. God is not omnipotent. He's omnicompetent to put you in a situation with a neighbor to have to learn to love. Okay? So Parasamgate, the sam is bringing it all together, like samaya. You know, people make samaya. Oh, I got to listen to the guru. That's more samaya. No, your samaya is meeting your guru. That's all. And what your guru wants, he doesn't want you sitting there staring at him and listening to him. He wants you being happy. He wants you expressing whatever good thing he ever said. If you sit there in front of him, he might do something stupid to you because it would make him too human. So staring and making him omnipotent. He's not. Okay? But if you try to act like that, maybe he might begin to believe you and then behave badly. So you have some responsibility if they behave badly too. We all do. We've all engaged with it. And the one thing we can do about it, we can't necessarily kill everybody who's bad, but we can deal with whatever our part of it was. That makes us powerful. Not be a victim. Do it ourselves. Take care of it. Don't react. Don't fill ourselves with hatred and resentment. Don't miss the good, even if there was some bad dished out. That's very critical. Okay. We have to do Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Tari Tutari Turi Swaha. Om Tari Tutari Turi Swaha. Om Tari Tutari Turi Swaha. I am a very bad time infraction person. So Jime, Vimala, Jime, there you are.
No, it's just wonderful. Please don't worry about the time.
Oh, good. Okay.
So,
any more questions?
I don't have any more like right now, but maybe let's dedicate the merit.
Okay, we dedicate the merit. Let's dedicate the merit to quickly becoming Tara Avalokiteshvara Manjushri. Since our topic was the Heart Sūtra, Prajñaparamita, transcendent wisdom, may we quickly become completely wise, Shūnyatā, and realize emptiness, freedom, openness, in whatever small way we can, which will develop our compassion in whatever small way it can, because it is opening the womb and being present in the womb of compassion, which is happiness. The womb is where the universe becomes a membrane transmitting joy to us, and like it does to a little baby in the womb, it transmits things. And so the bliss of the mom, blood in the bloodstream. And so we want quickly to become Manjushri and to understand things ourselves, take responsibility for that. So it's not to lord it over anybody else and become a big shot or anything, but in order to really be compassionate for everybody else and for our own weird selfish side of ourselves, which needs compassion too, because it's not happy. And so we will be more happy, others will be more happy as quickly as possible. We want them to be equal Manjushris to us. Thus, we dedicate all the merit. We don't keep it. We put it in the bank of the enlightening spirit of bodhicitta for all beings. Okay? Ta-da! Ta-ta-ta! Back to tare-tu-tare-tu-re. Tare-tu-tare-tu-re. Swaha tavayu punyajana pushtim kuruye swaha. Tare-tu-tare swaha tava. Ayu punyajana pushtim kuruye swaha. Okay, bye. I don't know how to stop. You have to just stop. Just turn it off. Thank you, Jime, especially. And thank you to Jim and all of you wonderful students of that and other teachers of that. Okay? Bye.
Thank you so dearly, Bob, for your luminous presence, these precious teachings, and being the amazing person you are. It's always so inspiring to encounter your genuine warmth and the way you effortlessly connect with everyone. So we're profoundly grateful for the time you've shared with us today. And to each of you who, by your presence, have contributed to the tapestry of this extraordinary day, we say thank you so much. May the wisdom shared today with us all empower us to cultivate greater understanding, open-heartedness, and compassion. Stay tuned for more upcoming Lama Life events where we will continue to explore diverse topics. In a week from today, on Sunday, July 30th, we will have the pleasure of having one of the best-known yoga teachers in America and around the world, Shiva Ray, who will speak about Sahaja, roots and embodiment of spontaneous wisdom in Vajrayana Buddhism and yoga. Then, August 6th, our guest teacher will be Lama Willa Blythe Baker, the teacher and author of several books, including The Wakeful Body, The Arts of Contemplative Care, and Everyday Dharma. And also, I want to announce the much anticipated event with Yung Pueblo, poet, best-selling author, meditator, and philosopher, who will be interviewed by Lama Sultram Alione on August 13th. You are always so warmly invited to join us live every Sunday at 9 a.m. Pacific time, or through the recording of each of our gatherings, which is always available right after the end of the live event. Thank you, everyone. May we meet again and again on the path, and may all beings benefit everywhere.
Mangalam Shri Maha Tare tu re. Mangalam Shri Mahapani Swaha. Om Tare tu re. Mangalam Shri Mahapani Swaha. Om Tare tu re.